I looked up Grant Cardone online, his website, and I paid the $100,000 for 4 hours. Every question I asked Grant, he called someone. When I was walking back, I was kind of slightly disappointed for a moment. But when I got to the hotel, it dawned on me. I said, you know what? I get to see a high-performing person like Grant. He doesn't know all the answers, but he gets it done because he surrounds himself around the right circles, just like what they were saying. And I said, I'm going to do everything in my power to put myself around. So that was the biggest takeaway I took from Grant and in my first experience with him.
Hey everyone, it's Tamara Thompson with Broadcast Your Authority, and I'm super excited for our next guest, but also just grateful for our co-host panelists today. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate all of you. Yeah. So, thanks for being here. Shane Seo is a visionary entrepreneur, real estate investor, and leader in personal development. As a CEO and founder of Seo Capital Management, he has built a diverse real estate portfolio spanning 400 residential properties, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's amazing. Commercial spaces, land investments, all the things. And I was super grateful to meet you last week out at your conference in Atlanta. So
I was so happy to have you.
Yeah, no, thank you for the invite. It was really awesome because I actually got to meet Linda and some other people as well. But I'm just super grateful to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, tell us a little bit about your backstory. I think one of the things that really resonated with me was, I believe you said that your father came over from Korea with like $200 in his account. Was that correct?
Yeah. So I'm half Korean. My dad came to America with $200 in a suitcase and no English. And, I got to see him, start. It's the most stereotypical Asian thing. He started a Taekwondo school here in America. So I got to grow up to see him as an entrepreneur running the school, do marketing, and I met a lot of great people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's basically how I got started with in martial arts, and real estate came later when I started my own Taekwondo school. Mm-hmm. And this guy owned the pizza place next to me, and he had his hair slicked back, and him and his wife had matching Cadillacs. And in the South, that's a really, really rich guy. And I said, "Sir, what do you do for a living?" And he said, "It's real estate," and then that's what got me hooked.
I love it. Mm-hmm. What part did I think you had shared a little bit about a story about a guy kind of took you under his wing, but then also disappeared after that?
Well, that was actually him. He took me to lunch and he explained how he bought some properties and, flipped them, or he'd buy like single family, multifamily, commercial, and he'd rent them out, and it had like generational stuff. He explained debt. He ghosted me the next day. Okay. Yeah, so and I don't want to bore everyone.
But it inspired you at some point.
It inspired because it's just it was a different thing, different perspective than anything I've been taught. Yeah. And I said, man, I really want to do that. But he ghosted me, and it took me 5 years to get my first deal. Not that I didn't try. I got 33 properties under contract over a 5-year period. And John can relate. That made every agent really upset with me because I'd always cancel before I would buy it because I just couldn't get across the finish line. And then on the 5th year, one of the agents lied to me when I found a property and got it under contract. And he says, "You can't cancel this. You're going to get sued," even though I was under due diligence and everything. And I think it's because he knew he was going to double dip. He'd make money when I bought it and money when I sold it. And I'm very thankful he did that, because what it did is it took me to saying, I can't do it, to how can I do this?
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that changed everything. So I went and found a friend. He lended me the money. We bought the house together. I maxed out my credit cards, did all the repairs and updates, and we made $60,000 together. So I made $30,000 on the first deal and found out how tough that was.
What do you believe was really holding you back those first 5 years? Was it getting stuck in your head? Was it like an action that what contributed to that first 5 years, and what shifted on that last part?
Well, number one, I didn't have any mentor. I think like everyone says, "Oh, mentor," but it's true. You don't have someone that can help you bypass, like John's book, Escape the Drift, which is a great book, and I'm excited. Yeah, he needs to show it later for sure. But like you have to have a mentor to help you just go much sooner, right? Mm-hmm. That was it. Number two, I didn't have any peers or anyone locally that was even doing real estate in the small town I'm in. And then thirdly, I was just afraid like I could fail. I didn't, and I didn't have any confidence. What changed is when I first got the first deal, because it took me 5 years to get the first deal. And then after I got the first deal, I got 60 properties in 5 months by just getting obsessive though. I just went nuts, really. And what it did is it helped me I guess, get a blind confidence. It means I can start something without knowing how to do it, and I know I can figure it out as we're doing it. So I think that's really what I lacked, was the blind confidence.
Yeah, 60 properties in 5 months is insanity.
Oh, I wouldn't.
That's like incredible.
That's like Blackstone buying. That's nuts. But I have a question, because you were talking about something that was interesting, which was, and we didn't talk about it yesterday, which was, you said, I didn't have a circle that could see those things as possible and get around. So as you started becoming successful, and this is something with every entrepreneur that makes this leap has, and they have to deal with, how did you leave behind the circle that didn't think that way? And were they trying to do the crab bucket and pull you back down?
Ooh, gosh, that's a great question. Honestly, I was real slow to leave it. That's really awful. But I guess I kept myself too busy to not be around them. Number two, the more and more I got around other successful people, the more and more I radiated toward that. And then the more success I got, but because of being around those people, naturally, I just got away from them. Now I lean in all into I spend $1.8 million in just mentorships and masterminds and gatherings and travels and all of that in the last 2 years. So I think success and being around them, you'll naturally get away.
So let's actually go back to the beginning, because I think that's where a lot of people start out. They know they need a mentor, but they try to do it on their own, right? They try to learn just enough from a book or a podcast. If you went all the way back to the beginning, that first person wanted to get in their deal and talking to that gentleman who then ghosted you, what would you say the number one success hack is to get from I've got the information to I'm now doing the thing? Is it getting a mentor?
Oh, go to mentors, or what I found out later in my small town is I went to landlord meetings. They're all investors. Definitely go to conferences, gatherings. Of course, you too, reach out to people like John and you, Ryan, and Linda. She has a great coaching, and just, you got to pay to play is what they say. So I'd put myself around all the mentors first. If you're around it, you'll be like it. So I have an uncle body, right? So what I'm trying to do is be around great people that are in good shape, and then hopefully I'll end up wanting to work out and get in like great shape, So
it's the room, right? It's getting in the room that raises the temperature, shows you what's possible. I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people is they try to isolate themselves in the world that we live in. They think they can learn just enough from YouTube, a book, social media.
Yes.
And those failures by yourself, they diminish and deplete your confidence pretty quick.
Yeah, and I hid behind being an introvert because I'm an introverted person, really. I'm like that. I like to be alone, study, and just try and figure it out myself. But honestly, that really hurt me. If anything, I should be 10 times larger than what I am now. I didn't start reaching out to people heavily, like I said, until the last 2-3 years. As far as mentorships heavily, I found out what I was doing. That's why I feel like I stayed in the single family game too long. Because 400 homes is 400 tax bills, taxes, it's 400 roofs, but I should have got into multifamily and commercial a lot sooner. So now that's what I'm doing. I'm transitioning in the next phase and talking to people like Grant Cardone. Which you got to be careful about saying what I'm going to say. I went to Richard Branson's island for 5 days, not Epstein, nothing like that.
Different island, huh?
Different island.
But I got to meet great high-level entrepreneurs, and they all told me, "What are you doing and just doing single family this whole time? There's no forced appreciation. You gotta do the larger deal." So talking to some of these high income people or some of the billionaires, I said, well, that's the next phase. If I'm going to try and grow, what doesn't grow dies. What settles goes to the bottom of the tank. Or if you just drift,
that's the only way to coast is downhill, brother.
There you go. That's what you said. Yes, I love it.
I'm curious. You came from a Taekwondo background.
Yes, sir.
What is Taekwondo? How has that helped you inside of the real estate game?
Funny enough, it should have helped me more because what I teach my kid is to have an I can do it attitude. But here I was until I got my back against the wall thinking I was getting sued. That's when I changed to how can I get it done, right? So, but I think it did help me with confidence a little bit. It helped me know that because my Taekwondo school, I started when I was 22 in a town that has 2 red lights. There's very few people in there. And I made 40 grand thinking that was the best thing in the world. But then I opened another school. I made 180 grand. I got up to 5 schools. We're making 800 grand a year. So you can make good money in Taekwondo. But the thing is I said, because I'm talking about Taekwondo business now more so, is that I realized that if I don't show up or I'm not active or I'm not there for my team or I'm one lawsuit away from being over, what's more liable than having kids in your school with nunchucks and kicking each other? You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh man, this is very vulnerable. Plus, what can I do to have passive income, something that when I pass away, I can pass to my family? That's the other thing that kind of made me pivot out of martial arts into investing. So I wanted to be more of an investor than an entrepreneur. So I kind of call myself an investorpreneur, if anything.
Well, what you just said is a mistake a lot of people make, which is, they think they have a business, but if you can't disappear for 3 months, you don't have a business. You have 100%.
A job. That's right.
And a lot of people don't understand that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think your story is so impressive. And I think you were saying that you invested $100,000, was it for 4 hours with Grant Cardone's mentorship?
I did, yeah.
So because, going from a place where you didn't have a mentor, you hired one. And then how did you feel when you hired him? And also what made you take that leap of, investing so much money?
That's a great question. No one's asked me that. In fact, what it is I started going to all these single family and like multifamily like mentors, and I learned a lot of great stuff. That's why I know 33 different ways to buy. It means I have more tools to make a deal happen than the other people that just do cash or regular financing or stuff like that. But what happened is I started going, I realized I'm larger than some of these guys. Not because I'm trying to like compare, but I just they're not telling me anything that I haven't already experienced, sadly. So what better way, if I've learned to become who I am from these guys, why don't I just go to the tip top? And I knew I wanted to lean more into multifamily. So I looked up Grant Cardone online, his website, and I paid the $100,000 for 4 hours. And then the experience was interesting, actually. And Grant taught me something, not with what his words were, but some of his actions. When I got there to his office, and Grant, if you're listening, this is just my first experience, and I love you to death. And honestly, I made $888,000 from that first conversation with him, by the way. So I made more than what I had paid. But when I was there, every question I asked Grant, he called someone. He did 11 phone calls. I count 11 phone calls my first meeting with him. And he told me some great stuff, and he gave me some good contacts, and that's the whole reason I was able to scale into my multifamily. But when I was walking back to the hotel, because I stayed 2 blocks from his office, when I was walking back, I was kind of slightly disappointed for a moment. I said, man, he really didn't answer anything. I paid this money, and other mentors kind of like nerd out with me because I'm a real estate nerd at heart, and he just told me really direct or just called someone. He didn't know the answer. But when I got to the hotel, it dawned on me. I said, you know what? I get to see a high-performing person like Grant. He doesn't know all the answers, but he gets it done because he surrounds himself around the right circles, just like what they were saying. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to do everything in my power to put myself around. So that was the biggest takeaway I took from Grant and my first experience with him.
So I'm curious. I think perspective determines the world that you see, right? Your paradigm, it filters the way you see things.
Yes, sir.
You're a driven individual, right? I mean, it's amazing what you've accomplished from Taekwondo to transitioning out of that into single family homes to now to paying $100,000 coaches. Where did this drive come from? And how does someone tap into this type of drive without knowing all of the answers from the beginning? That's usually hard for someone who's a nerd and wants to see all the details before they get moving.
Yes. Honestly, I wish my story is really that of a moron or a pathetic person, if you think of it, because it took me 5 years to get my first deal, 5 years, 6 years to even start going to really good mentors. And it's taking me like 10 years to even try and do podcasts and stuff. But really, it goes back to my why is what really made me do it. It's that I was a missionary, a Christian missionary. I went when I was 12 and I got hooked. When I turned 19, I went every 3-4 months to go do mission work. We went to Panama, Mexico, like different places. And we helped the churches there. We dug wells. We, went with the evangelists, and I feel like, we shared the gospel. But when I came back to America, I'd always go to other churches and ask for money. Or I'd ask people, hey, look, there's some kids over there with worms growing out of their head and their pot belly. And I saw that. They're moving slime off the top of water, like just to give me what little they have. And that hit me. Like you said, perspective. You need to go out of country, in my opinion. So when I came back, no one would give me money. But if I'm away from my business too much, just like John said, my business would go down because I had created my own job. Even though I had a great team, if I'm not there, it falters, right? So I said, you know what? Why don't I build something that funds it? And that would have to be investments. So now whenever I started getting this inside, I'm like, I want to go more in and help do more good and impact the world more, because poverty out of country is different than the States. It's bad here too. Not that we don't help people here, but it's really bad out there, And that's why I said, you know what? If I grow to this many homes, it'll take care of me. If I do this many properties, it'll help my mom, my dad, and my staff. if I do this many, it'll fund all the mission trips I'm going, because these rich people, when I come and ask for money, won't give me none. And these churches were too busy talking about mountain climbing and camping, no joke, instead of actually how they could do. I was trying to get them to come with me and everything. So that would be my why. So what it is I treat it as if it was a life and death situation. So I kind of psyched myself out. That's my way of how I did. I wish I could just say, oh, it was because, I want to win. I did want to win, but it's just, I had a purpose for it.
I love that.
That would be the best way.
I had an experience a couple of years ago in Egypt where I met a dude at a casino bar in Egypt. We talked to him for 2 hours about nothing, right? About random stuff. After 2 hours and we're about ready to leave, this guy throws out, I produced all the Wu-Tang Clan records. And we're like, bro,
Where was that?
How do you not lead with that? And I'm going to explain to you what that story has to do with this. Yesterday, after an hour-long podcast with him on my podcast, he throws out, oh yeah, I started this film fund and now we're like investing in movies. I'm like, where was that? For like, so I want you to talk about that because I was fascinated by that.
Okay, so I've been pitched movies by everyone. I was like, why are they pitching me movies? I'm a real estate guy and a karate teacher. And you can tell from my accent, I'm a Southern guy. Who with this Southern accent invests in movies? But they did. And I realized that like in real estate syndications, the equity gets paid first, right? In theirs, it's paid last, on 7th on the waterfall. And I can't say legally who it was, but I got on a call with these big executives and they were pitching me this movie. And I was like, it sounds like a scam. Like, I didn't know he was like this big guy up in there. So anyway, I was walking in Beverly Hills with one of my friends, and I said, why are people investing in movies? He said, Shane, let's just say that there's 4 movies. You'll lose money on 2, break even on the 3rd one, and maybe make a little bit on the 4th. Maybe not even make all your money back. And people will invest with you forever. And I said, that just don't make sense to me as an investor. Why? He goes, because it's for ego. They get to be in the rooms on the red carpet with all these great people that put you in the good rooms. So it's like a high-end mastermind if you think about it. And I said, okay, well, why don't we create a fund that hedges the bet of that so people can still get the perks, but they get a return? And how do insurance company do it? Like life insurance, for example, right? The people pay premiums. The insurance companies buy cash-producing real estate. When someone dies, they use the profits to pay it off. And I said, why don't we do that with real estate? So I created a hybrid fund and I flew back out to talk to Grant. That was my 2nd or 3rd talk with him. And I explained what I'm doing. And he said, well, I'm doing that with Bitcoin. I said, well, I'm just going to replace Bitcoin, with movies. So as I come up with that, no joke, and I can't say who they are because it's really cool, but I never played golf. I've only done Top Golf. I was playing golf with one of their big producers of this company. I also, got to meet some other can't say who they are, but it's just really cool people that I got to meet with. I said, man, I'm going to change this industry. So I started working with the president of the American Film Association, and we're going to do this big change between indie films and studio, bridging the gap, but also make sure that people are being compliant and the investors are actually making a return instead of just paying for a high-end mastermind, if that makes sense. I know we do masterminds, and I wish a guy would come to me and say, look, you can pay $50,000 to be in the mastermind, or you can invest $250,000 with me and be in a deal, and I'll let you in the mastermind for free. I'd love that too. So kind of something similar like that. But yeah, I think we're going to do a lot of change. And if you'll see some films that we're doing and the celebrities that we're meeting and the rooms that I'm getting into, it helps my circle because the next $1 million idea and opportunities in someone else's mind. So I want to make sure I'm in those types of rooms. Hence the reason I'm here with you guys. And it's been an honor.
I love this. Yeah. It's so funny. It's always like serendipity, right? Like, so I always meet people and I know they were brought into my life for a reason. And then I meet somebody else through that like ripple effect. Right. So like I knew like from the event, that they had like the film side too, and the event side. And I was like, why are they doing all this? I'm like, this is so cool. And all these filmmakers kept walking up to me and I kept telling them about my story about winning a bunch of awards and directing films and how our films were acquired by indie flicks. Like,
that's amazing.
Like, I just think it's a cool picture to be able to be like, hey, I now know somebody else that's doing this and, help give back and connect the dots with other things too. So I'm grateful that you shared that as well.
And thanks for coming because she flew out all the way to our conference and it really means a lot. And we did 2 conferences at once, film and real estate. So while the real estate conference was going, we did workshop for the film and then we switched it. Twice the bill, twice the speakers, twice the logistics, and we pulled it off phenomenal.
You're
I think
a
I was
lunatic.
very
Incredible.
happy.
It's
Absolute
incredible.
lunatic.
Oh, man.
I love that.
It
The
was
best
wild.
possible way.
Well, we're gonna have you come back out for a part 2 on the show. I'm grateful just to have met you, been able to connect with you, fly out to your conference, see all the dual action here. Now you kind of see what the dual action we're doing over here,
you are
in different
doing
areas
amazing.
too. Shane, could you tell our audience a little bit more about how they can connect with you and anything else you have going on that you can share at this point?
Yeah, you guys make sure to please follow me on all the socials. So there's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and definitely YouTube. It's at Shane Seo, at SHANE-SEO. And my last name is Seo, but everyone thinks it's Seo, but it's Seo. So if you ever meet me, Shane Seo.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I truly appreciate it.
It's an honor. Thank you.
And those of you watching Broadcast Your Authority, be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel, leave us a review over on Apple or Spotify, and we'll see you in the next episode.